We start off with the gazeti ya Taifa Leo 2027 IEBC Yasota. Tume huru ya uchaguzi na mipaka yani IEBC imeonya kuwa pengo la shilingi bilioni 13 katika bajeti ya uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka ujao itaathiri pakubwa maandalizi yake kulingana na stakabadhi zilizowasilishwa katika bunge la kitaifa. Na stakabadhi bungeni zaonyesha huenda tume hiyo ikashindwa kutekeleza majukumu kuelekea kura za mwaka ujao. Mkuu wa tume hiyo amenukuliwa hapa akisema madeni haya yamekuwa yakiongezeka kwa muda na yataathiri shughuli za tume kuendesha uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka 2027. They asked for 60, was it 61 billion?
61 billion shillings.
They got 57.
But I think they can get incremental allocations with the budget this year, next year, probably, but I don't know, yeah.
All right. That's the main story on the front page of Taifa Leo. Vidokeza zaidi aliyezoa taka ajiunga na Alliance High. Wow, John Mwalili hajiunga na shule ya ndoto yake baada ya Taifa Leo kuangazia masaibu yake. Gazeti hii hapa. Kule juu ni siku ya 35 ya mgomo hospitalini. Wagonjwa watamauka baada ya mgomo wa madaktari kaunti ya Nairobi kuingia siku 35. And we're not even talking about this as a nation.
Tunazungumzia pesa za uchaguzi wa mwaka.
Priorities.
Mwaka ujao.
Masuala ya spoti pia yamepewa kipaumbele hapa. Arsenal na Real moto, UEFA City ikila huu.
Arsenal walizaba jamaa wa Inter Milan pale San Siro mabao 3-1. Wengi hawajaamini, wengi hawajaamini. Na hawataamini.
Habari za kimataifa pia, BSJ mahututi hospitalini Uganda. Kigogo huyo wa upinzani nchini Uganda sasa anapigania maisha yake. Taifa Leo. Kuna habari nyingine hapa. Joho asaka suluhu ya madini huku chini. Anasema waziri asema atahakikisha kaunti ya Taita Taveta inanufaika kutokana na madini yake. Tukisonga mbele.
Songa mbele tunaangazia gazeti la The Standard. It talks about something different, and The Standard siku hizi wamekuwa wanatupeleka hivi. Leo wanazungumzia presiding over rogues. Police violence in Kenya is no longer about rogue officers, it's systemic. Impunity runs deep. Leaders are puppets of the executive. Suspects in murders are openly contemptuous of the law, while junior officers unleash brutality on ordinary Kenyans. Lethal force, impunity and silence have become routine. Innocent civilians are shot, beaten or killed in custody. Investigations crawl and accountability is a distant promise. From Karatina to Mathare, Nandi Hills to Githurai, every death fuels fear and mistrust. That's the main story, and it's the only story featured on the front page today. They've given some numbers on the front page. The number of civilians who have been killed by police officers in January alone. It's only 22 days of January. 7 already have been killed by police officers. The number of deaths said to have been attributed to police through shooting of protesters or unarmed civilians is 104. And the number of youths who were killed during the anti-tax demonstrations, police often appear in the dock, but few end up in jail, but the number stands at 60. Yes. So that's a story that you can read on page 4 of The Standard. And they simply talk about how police have gone rogue and they appear not to be held accountable. Deadly act when police take law into their own hands. That's the story on page 2. There's an interesting story on page 3 about why man wants marriage papers rule invalidated. He argues that making registration of customary marriages mandatory creates a loophole. Bado kuna hiyo debate. If you get married in a customary way, are you really married? Does the law recognize it? Kuna maswala pale, kuna wale wana argue, according to the law, you still have to go and sign some papers. Yeah. All right. Maswala ya siasa pia yamepewa kipaumbele. Ruto creates campaign network as opposition seeks new alliances. On the back page, matters AFCON still continue. The champions are back home in Senegal, and they received a rapturous welcome. AFCON champions back to soothing feeling. Wamekuwa criticized sana sababu ya ile kusema wametoka kwa uwanja, lakini at least there are people who still love them. Yes, na hiyo Real Madrid, Inter Milan na Arsenal wakitandikwa proper iko kwenye kurasa za kule nyuma. That's the Standard.
All right. Tukisonga mbele, the People Daily, Eye on 2027, parties move into weaken ODM and UDA influence in key regions. Alternative voices including Mount Kenya, Northeastern, North Rift, Coast, Ukambani, Gusii, Luo Nyanza na Western. Just to mention a few, they say in Western, apart from UDA, the other parties to watch include DCP, DAP-K, as associated with Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya, and Ford Kenya associated with the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula. Luo Nyanza obviously pale wanasema ni ODM. At in Luo Nyanza, the parties that are gaining momentum rather, includes Movement for Democracy and Growth associated with Ugenya MP. Kumaanisha hata ODM ijatajwa hapo in Luo Nyanza.
Tunasema parties move to weaken ODM and UDA. So these are the alternative parties in those areas.
All right, pale, all of them are here on the front page, alternative voices. Huku chini, from the ground up, how women in Lamu are stepping into leadership. That story is on page 2. And on the top strip, Mountain Revolt, how Gachagua is challenging Ruto and redrawing power. That's the People Daily.
All right. From the People Daily, we take a look at the Daily Nation. And this one has gone on a totally different tangent. No mention of local politics on the front page at all. So the big story there, it talks about this gentleman, why US is probing this man, a University of Nairobi alumnus who was born in Somalia, grew up in Kenya's Dadaab refugee camp, and later obtained United States citizenship. He's now facing a US House of Representatives probe over alleged fraud. His name is Dr. Abdullahi Ali, and he is the founder of Gateway Community Services, a healthcare firm based in the US state of Maine that was last month suspended from receiving government funding pending investigations. Hawa watu upande ni kama wameleta shida sana kule US. His businessman tried to wrestle the Jubaland presidency from Madobe in 2024. So he has political interests as well, and the story is on pages 2 and 3. He's now on the US radar. Wanasema kuna fraud. Na upande lingine ni wapi? Minnesota. Minnesota pia kuna kesi nyingi sana. Linked to people from the same region, nation, country. The other half of the front page of the Daily Nation has a very interesting photo of President William Ruto and Mohoho Kenyatta, who was a younger brother to the fourth president, Uhuru Kenyatta. Wamesalamiana pale, wanacheka sana. I'm telling politicians, you know, they have their inside jokes. And these are big families. Wanakutana, wanacheka, wanashangaa watu wamecheka nini. Na vile walifanya watu wakakosana.
Wanaitana nicknames.
Alafu hapa mwandishi ameandika, great to see you, President with his predecessor's brother at State House. But the story is this. This gentleman is actually the chair of the African region and trustee of the Duke of Edinburgh International Award Foundation. That is his job. And so yesterday there was an award at State House, an award ceremony, and that's why he was there. Haikuwa mambo ingine, shika. Like, it's an interesting photo, but elewa ni nini ilikuwa inaendelea. Other stories, watch out, that casual WhatsApp chat could cost you a lot of money. Na hii ndio kitu watu wana nini, hawaelewi. You can actually make an agreement with someone on WhatsApp. Yeah? And that will also be considered legal. Usifikiria tu ati ni kutext tu ati nitakulipa tu, si nitakulipa next week Wednesday. That's an agreement. Evidence kwa kaltas. Fresh queries on customary marriage law. That story is on page 10, and I think this is one of the interesting. I think you should have one of those conversations you have. There's a lawyer who wants unregistered customary marriages to be legally recognized. It's the same story. Ile ijakuwa registered, haiko kwa karatasi, lakini watu walipeleka mbuzi, wakapeleka ile nyungu imebeba pombe, wakapeleka na wakakubalika, chukueni huyu muende na yeye. Lakini hamukuandika, hamukujaza makaratasi. Now this lawyer wants even that to be considered a marriage. No, hii si kamwiste, hii mmeenda kwa familia na mkatoa dowry. But there are those who argue that it has to be registered. At least there has to be a certificate somewhere.
Well, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I agree with him because not very many people have actually registered formally their customary marriages. Are you telling them they're not married? Some of them are very old and utaleta tu shida baadaye. Anyway. On the back page, and this one has moved on, it's back to local sports. We have issues to do with boxing. Wasike and Onyango eye East African boxing titles. Matters volleyball, journey to Olympics. Kenya's Malkia strikers on the brink. So yes, those are the stories on the Daily Nation today.
All right. The star DP Kindiki job at stake as UDA meets over ODM talks. ODM says it won't settle for anything short of Deputy President's slot. They met yesterday, of course, ahead of that coalition pact. This story is on page 4 and 5.
This is a very interesting angle to this because yes, even as a UDA and ODM continue making plans for a grand coalition, kuna watu wanafinyika sana. Na ni wengi ni wale wako UDA wanasema tumekaa tumepigania hii serikali, we have positions here, but now with the entry of ODM it means our positions are under threat. One of them is the deputy president. Na kuna wengine sasa, in fact people like even the SG of UDA, he'll become almost a nobody once there's a coalition. There has to be another layer of officials to manage the coalition. Wengine watapotelea tu huko ndani ovyo ovyo tu fwa.
Ruto Muhoho attend Gold Award presentation. That story, we've talked about it on the Daily Nation. Widowers bid to get wife's TSC cash fails. This is a story on page 10. Say the Employment and Labor Relations Court in Kisii has brought to a close a decades-old bid for posthumous pension benefits, extinguishing a claim filed on behalf of a teacher who died in 1997. WhatsApp, SMS, and verbal contracts are binding, court says. That's a serious matter.
Sasa verbal contract watajuaje what I said I can deny?
Na kikurecord.
Unajua hata I can promise marriage to someone verbally. Is that a contract?
Looks like something you would do.
Really?
On the top strip kule juu, Radio Africa Group USAU Africa signed strategic MOU to nurture next generation. That's a story, a special feature on page 2. El Nino coming back, global focus indicate. The last El Nino was in 1997, right?
No, there was some, but it was a milder version of it much later than that. Yeah.
That's the Star. Fresh, independent, different. Grab a copy at 60 Kenya shillings. Kiwa Kenya. All
right. From the Star, we take a look at the Business Daily. And they talk about small investors getting higher price in 110 billion shilling NCBA buyout. If you look at the dailies huko ndani, you'll see a lot of notices by NCBA on the intention to sell part of its shares. They're selling about 66%. And there's the next page, unaona mwingine mwenye ananunua, akizungumzia intention ya kununua hizo shares. So this is called Nedbank. They're offering small shareholders 105 shillings per share, which is not bad. If you have 1,000 shares of this, you have 105,000 shillings. So small investors will get a higher buyout price of 105 shillings per share in Nedbank's bid to buy 66% stake in NCBA Group. NCBA Group has been linked to the Kenyatta family. Yes. And you remember when President William Ruto came in, and he was always saying that the previous administration had given a 15% waiver, tax waiver on this bank. And they were really against this. Yeah, because we're saying, hiyo ni banki yako unajipatia waiver. How true it is, I don't know. But now it would appear NCBA is being sold. High net worth investors are said to get a combined price of 98, which is much less than what small shareholders will get per share in a composite cash and stock deal. Now, this is a South African bank, Nedbank, made the offer of 13.9 billion rand. It's 109.9 billion. It's 110 billion shillings.
Wow.
Yeah. To all shareholders of NCBA to buy them out on a pro rata basis, mostly using its shares to fund the transaction besides a cash component. That's very interesting there. Wakisema ni nani ana own NCBA shareholding, kuna First Chartered Securities. NK, you will not see any name kama Kenyatta on this. You will not.
Companies too.
Yeah. The other story, why billionaire Mudhoka sold logistics firm for 5.2 billion shillings. Unauza tu kampuni 5.2 billion unaomoka. Yeah. That's another story there. We need a deal. On the ticker, MSMEs to be spared quarterly installments in tax reforms plan. Kenya Pipeline Company set aside 290 million shares for its employees, which is a good thing in the IPO. And 75% NSE stocks trading handled by stockbrokers staff. And that's the Business Daily.
All right.
Once again, a reminder that our panel this morning will be featuring these four gentlemen. Mwalimu Wilson Sosion, who's a veteran educator and unionist. Professor Fred Ogola, who's an expert in matters economy and governance. Dr. Peter Mbai is the Secretary Planning and Economic Affairs at the DCP. And Daniel Manduku is the MP Nyaribari Masaba constituency. Do stand by for this coming your way in a few minutes' time, starting at 6:30. At 8 a.m., we'll be switching gears.
we talk matters health, cervical cancer. What do you need to do? HPV vaccination is being championed for, but is it safe?
All right.
Some of the questions we'll be asking. This is Josiah Mwandaza, reproductive health specialist at Marie Stopes, Kenya.
All right.